And here are the main ingredients we'll be needing for our mango tart. Of course, we have some delicious ripe mango. You know, this is the closest that I've found that tastes kind of like a dewy mango. In Gainesville, Florida, it's hard for us to get some nice mangoes sometimes, but this is the closest that I could find. And then we have some nice natural turbinado brown sugar, puff pastry sheets. We have an egg for our egg wash and some low sugar apricot preserves that we're going to glaze our mango tart with. Check the description box below for all the ingredients for this mango tart recipe. The first thing that I need to do is to thaw out our puff pastry sheets and just follow the package directions. And if by some chance the pastry gets a little too soft or looks like it's starting to get warm, you don't want that, so just stick it back in the refrigerator or the freezer for a few minutes. And while that's thawing out, I'm going to put my mango, it's already sliced. I'm going to cover it with some plastic wrap and just stick it in the refrigerator because I want everything nice and cold. And while the puff pastry is thawing out, you can prepare your baking sheet by lining it with a piece of parchment paper. I like to cut it to size for the size of the inside of the baking sheet, so that way it lays nice and flat. Remember that the puff pastry is very delicate, so you know, when you're opening it up, just be very careful. Open it up carefully and just lay it on your baking sheet. That way it'll be easier to prep and do what you need to do to get your tarts ready. If you notice, the puff pastry was folded into thirds each sheet. So I cut one sheet into thirds, and then I cut another third out of the other sheet, and the rest I'm going to use to cut into strips and make a little border around each tart. So here's what I did with the other 2/3 of the puff pastry sheet that was left. I cut it into strips to make a border. So I cut 16 lengthways, so that's gonna go on the long side of the tart. And then I cut 16 that are gonna go crossways like this on the short side of the tart. Before I put the borders on the tarts, I'm just going to take some water, cold water, and just take my finger and just dab the edges of the pastry tarts, or the pastry pieces that we're gonna make the tarts with. So this is gonna help those, the borders stick. So one more thing I'd like to do before I actually put the mango on the tart is I'm just taking the edge of a fork and just going around the borders to try to, you know, kind of really get that sealed. So I think we're done prepping our pastry. Now it's time to put that mango on. So I'm just taking the slices of my mango, and I'm using like 4 nice slices for each tart. I cut them pretty thick, so I think 4 should be sufficient for each one. And just keep going until you fill up all your spaces. Sometimes you'll need to just add like a little smaller piece like this to the end. Here I have 1 egg that's been beaten up really good. Want to make sure the yolk and the white is well blended. So what I'm going to do now is just take a pastry brush and just coat the edges of the tart, the pastry part, on the border part I mean, and just go all the way around, because this is going to give it like a really nice golden color when it's done baking. So just continue doing that. And then we have one last step to go before it's done. And don't worry if you don't get all the edges, because if you notice, some of the mangoes are overlapping. And the final step, I have this lovely natural brown turbinado sugar. So just take the sugar and just sprinkle it all around the edge, the border. That's going to give it also not only a lovely color, but a nice crunch too. I ended up leaving the tarts in the freezer for about 15 minutes, which is a lot longer than I thought it would take to firm up. But better to do that than to get it, into the oven too soft, and then it's just going to melt all over the place. So time to go into the oven. Middle rack, 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes. One thing I want to do while the tarts are still hot, I've got some of this apricot preserves that I just kind of softened, melted in the microwave. And what I want to do is to brush just the mango with this glaze. So it's going to be nice and glistening. That looks pretty. Truly delicious. Crunchy pastry and soft, sweet mango.